Hello all, welcome to NetBook and welcome back to Mulesoft tutorials. Today I'm planning to show the overview about Anypoint Studio and the features of Anypoint Studio and creation of simple project and explaining about the project structure and different views of Anypoint Studio. So over here, if you see in the previous session, I explained about how we can install Anypoint Studio in our local for development purpose. And then I have shown by starting that Anypoint Studio. Now in today's session, I'm going to show how we can use this Anypoint Studio. Let's go to the help and see this version over here and build version. Um, so this is Anypoint Studio. It is a tooling for Mule runtime. In the below, if you see, these all are Eclipse icons. That means the Anypoint Studio is built on top of Eclipse tool. So the Eclipse tool mainly it is a Mulesoft Eclipse-based integration development environment for designing and developing as well as for testing your Mule application. If you see some of the Mulesoft features, or maybe I won't say that Mulesoft features, some of the Anypoint features, you can create a projects, Mule applications we call, and run it instantly in local. And this is the visual editor for configuring your Mule projects or maybe for developing Mule flows. And you can post these changes, whatever you implement the Mule applications to the test environment also, or maybe dev environment also. It will have a embedded server, so you can run it quickly in your local, and even we can build into, even integrate with us Cloud Hub also. Let's see how we can create a Mulesoft project here. Either you can go to the file, new, or create a Mule project. Click on that. I'm going to give a project name as over here, Mulesoft-tutorials. Then I'm selecting the runtime as Mule Server 4.3.0, which is coming default, and click on Finish. Once you click on Finish, it will create a Mulesoft project in your workspace now. So this is the project which we have created right now. I'm going to talk about the Mulesoft project which we created, the structure first of all. Then I will talk about the views of um, Anypoint Studio. The first thing over here is src main mule, which is going to contain Mule configuration file. Whatever the project name you create, with that name, it's going to create a Mule configuration file. Then we have a src main Java. This is the folder which will be used in case of if you are going to write any Java classes. And then we have src main resources. This is the resources which are required for your Mulesoft project. The resources means it might be the property files, it might be the RAMLs, it might be any certificates, maybe the SSL certificates kind of a thing. Sometimes it might be the visitors. So even data view code, every supporting files, you can put it under src main resources. Then we have a three folders, test folders. Now exactly whatever three folders we have above will have a test projects over here. Whatever the Java code is written in above, for that you need to write a unit test cases. That unit test cases can be written under src test Java. So whatever the Mule flows you create under src main Mule, for that you need to write a test cases that can be written in src test munit. Whatever the supporting files you keep it, the resource files in src main resources. For unit testing purpose, you can keep it them in src test resources. That means these three folders are for mainly for writing unit test cases for that. Then the below you can see some of the dependencies and the Mule runtime. It is a Mule server 4.3.0 that will be shown over here. Then the next one is mule-artifact.json, which is one of the important configuration file over here. So by default, it is going to show over here minimum mule version. So whenever you create a project, whatever the version you select of runtime, the same thing it will show over here. Imagine if you want to deploy this project in 4.2.0, you can change it that 4.2.0 over here so that even you can downgrade your server version. Uh, uh, Also, you can deploy this application, the downgraded version application it is going to be. As well as imagine you have some configuration of properties and all secure properties, you can hide them over here in the mule artifact.json also. The next thing is pom.xml, which is one of the heart of your Mulesoft project, which is going to contain project details, some of the properties. That means what version of runtime it is going to use, what version of dependencies it is going to use. These are the dependencies by default it is going to contain. You can see that these dependencies are going to be part of your project. By default, it is going to come as HTTP connector and socket connector. Imagine if you want to integrate with a database, you need to have database dependency over here. Imagine if you want to integrate with a Salesforce, you should keep Salesforce dependency over here. So only we have currently HTTP and socket connector. By default, it is going to come. The next thing is over here, we have a repositories. So whatever the dependencies we added above, those dependencies will be downloaded from these repositories. So the dependencies will be available by default in a Mulesoft provided repositories. These are the repositories. Sorry, these are the repositories which is going to contain. We can download it from there. So this is the mainly you can have the project name. Then there is one more thing. There is a build tag over here. If you want to build a jar, if you want to compile a code, by default, Mulesoft is going to use Maven as a building tool. So which is the plugin, it is going to contain in a pom.xml. That's why pom.xml is the main important thing in a Mulesoft project. So now we have seen about the project structure. Let's go to the Mule configuration file. So under src main Mule, there is a one configuration file it is going to create by default whenever you create a project. This is the called as Mule configuration file, which is going to contain three tabs. One is message flow, global element, configure XML. The message flow is mainly used for implementing your Mule flows. So here is canvas we call, and we can drag and drop those connectors from your Mule palette to canvas so that you can implement the flow. Here is you can see now one flow is created. See that there is nothing in a global element as of now. Now when you click on listener and there is a connector configuration. When you click on place over here, you can create HTTP listener configuration. I'm selecting that by default configuration, clicking on OK. Now if we go back to the global elements, now you can see the HTTP listener configuration will be stored over here. That means all global elements can be stored there. Then we have something called configure XML. Whatever the code you implement in a message flow and global elements, that will generate this XML code. You don't have to write any XML code, but if you are very familiar, you can write a XML code and generate a flows also. You don't have to even drag and drop, but it is good practice to use drag and drop mechanism, which is provided by the Mulesoft. But internally, it is going to generate this XML file. Okay, so now coming back to the message flow. Now you can see this is the flow you can implement by using the remaining connectors based on your requirements. Now let's go to the different views of Anypoint Studio. The first thing is Package Explorer. So the Package Explorer is going to contain list of projects as well as the project structure over here. So you can create another project. You can see that project over here, another project also if you create another one. The next thing is Mule Palette. The palette is collection of modules and connectors. This is called as a module over here. See that HTTP is one of the module. Under that you have a different connectors. Core is another module. Under that you have a different connectors. Using these connectors you will implement a business logics in a Mulesoft applications. So even you can use Exchange to add the modules into your workspace so that you can use them in your projects. The next thing is over here, we have a console. Console is for displaying the list of messages or printing a log during whenever you are executing your program. So whenever you run the application, you will see the server messages over there. And problem view. The problem views will show list of errors in case of any errors in your application. Now we can see there is one error in your application. So that error message it is going to show over here. By seeing this error, we can fix the issues easily. Now we can see required attribute path is not defined in HTTP. That means, so in the HTTP listener, we need to define a path. That is what it is saying here. Then we have something called Mule Properties. This will be enabled whenever you select any connector in a canvas. Now we can see I have selected listener, the HTTP listener. Related to HTTP listener properties are showing over here. And then if I select any other component or connector and drag to the palette, now we can see I selected transform message. The transform message related properties are going to show over here. Then we have an outline. The outline is the project outline it is going to display over here. Even we have something called YUnit. So whenever we run it YUnit test, that is a unit test cases, those reports, everything can be seen in a YUnit tab over here. We'll talk about it YUnit and all during the other videos. So these are the different views in a Mulesoft Anypoint Studio. This will be used while you are going to implement any flows. I hope this is going to help you for learning or starting your Mulesoft journey. Thank you for watching this video. Please like, share, subscribe. Thank you. See you in the next video.